Okay, I teach graduate students about sociocultural theory. Are any of you familiar with sociocultural theory a little bit? Yeah? Okay. Vygotskian sociocultural theory postures that proposes that we have different ways of generating change, or different time scales, actually. It's time scale. Phylogenesis is a change in the species. And apparently, I think it was 7 million years ago, we stood up, okay? And that was a big change for the whole species. But of course, we all didn't stand up at the same time. Different ones of us, individuals, started standing up, and that would be ontogenesis, okay? And when a baby starts walking, that's the ontogenesis of that individual. They're changing. They're not just crawling around anymore. They're standing and walking. Okay? Microgenesis would just be a single episode. Okay? It could be a single conversation in learning, a microgenetic way of looking at how things change. Okay? And of course, you need many, many episodes of microgenesis to create ontogenesis and then create phylogenesis, okay, and change the whole species. There seems to be now, for me, psychologically and philosophically, a clash right now between capitalism and wanting to altruism. Capitalism and altruism, to a certain extent, this clash. But more and more I see people in microgenetic ways helping each other, and it's it makes me feel really, really good, okay? And when I can do this with my students, I really like it. And so a lot of the songs we're going to be singing today kind of points their brains into these kinds of directions, okay? And we'll be doing that. So also, well-becoming is, for me, is equaling well-beloving. And I'll go into that more later on. The real thing that I need to get to, because we only have an hour, is the 10 things about Love 2.0, which I call Ma Wev Ikrik. And that will be, you don't have to take a lot of notes. It's all on an article that I'm giving you, okay? But I'll review it very, very quickly. And also all the songs that we're singing today are on here, and you'll have lots of references as well. But I'll go ahead and give this to you now. Yeah, there you go. Yes, I don't know how many are there. There, thanks. There you go. There you go. Paper. There's 2 there, but that's okay. Keep it for the next person coming up. Okay? Okay. So, this article by Barbara Frederickson is basically trying to explain how is Love 2.0 different from what your old thing of romantic love is. Keep your romantic love idea, it's okay. But in her laboratory, she actually measures how people are changing in these micro moments of positivity. And basically she calls them micro moments. And anyone can have them, okay? It's not restricted to just people who happen to be romantically in love. And a wave of emotions. Basically, she's saying that biologically in the laboratory, when 2 people have eye contact and they smile at each other, there's waves of emotions that go through their brains and bodies and actually boost their immune system, finally. So anyone can do it. It's a wave of emotion. Mostly it's done through eye contact. The vagus nerve, if those of you who are not familiar with that, that's basically the main nerve group going from the brain down to the heart. And it's how our brain regulates our heart and our biology, basically. And what she notices is that there seems to be a boost in the immune system, okay, when these micro moments happen and when waves of these emotions flow over your body. You are all teachers, and my guess is, yes, you are all teachers? No? Yes? Okay. My guess is that when you see somebody learning, you have one of these micro moments of love going through you. Again, this is Love 2.0. It's just a wave of good emotions going through you, okay? And you feel gratified, and this is what I want to do. This is why I became a teacher. This person's learning. And when we have a student who doesn't seem to be learning at all, we obsess over them sometimes, and we go crazy sometimes, okay? And it's really painful, all right? And that's a little bit further, where they call that compassion down here, okay? We're trying to figure out how can we help this person, okay? That might be a little bit off. It's a very virtuous cycle. The more micro moments you have, the more healthier your body actually becomes, she says. And the next one, recultivate regularly. Basically, you love your wife or husband or whatever, but just getting married and having that isn't enough. You need to recultivate these micro moments every day, okay, in order to get the best out of it. But knowing about all this allows you to do it more, okay? Knowing that eye contact, smiling at people, and having these micro moments makes you do it more. At Starbucks this morning, the guy who was making coffees everybody who came through seemed to be very rushed, and he seemed to be very rushed, and he looked really not very happy. And so when I finally got my coffee, and I took a sip real quick, and I said, "Wow, this is great mocha, thanks." And he went, "Whoa." And we had eye contact for a moment, okay? It was a micro moment of connection of, I like what you're doing for me, okay? And it doesn't have to be long-term or anything else. It's just these micro moments. Where I live in Japan, when I go to Tokyo, I'm out in Chiba Prefecture, and I have to cross through the stop for Disneyland. And everybody is asleep or looking at their cell phones. But when we stop at Disneyland, all these kids are getting on with these Mickey Mouse costumes and things, and everybody just perks up and turns off their cell phone and just looks around, and you have eye contact with so many different people. And it's really healthy to go through Disneyland. It really is. You don't have to stop and pay, just go through it. Yes. Okay. So what I've tried to do, and what I was talking about actually in Finland at this Psychology and Language Learning Conference, by the way, it was the second Psychology and Language Learning Conference. The first one was held in Austria 2 years ago, and the next one's going to be in Japan in 2 years. Please come if you can. And I was talking about threading or weaving Love 2.0 through our everyday lives with call and response routines and songlets, okay? And I call this value-added language learning. It's not just learning grammar and vocabulary. I tell my students, I want you to be healthy and happy. I want you to be concerned about other people. I want you to be social. And so these things will help us do that in a way. Yeah. Okay, so other words for threading and weaving might be alignment. There's I can't remember his name. He writes a lot on alignment. And synchrony and belonging and Love 2.0, micro moments of connection, group dynamics 2.0. So all of these fields kind of come together. I love seeing my students align with each other when they're having conversations and giving lots of eye contact. Threading synchrony, I do a lot of juggling in my classes, and I get my students to juggle, and in groups of 5 they actually throw the balls around in a star formation, and we have lots of games like that. Another one that's gone viral is the cup song, Pitch Perfect. Most of you you don't know that, but if you Google cup song, yes, then you'll get lots of videos about it. But it's crazy. It's just using a paper cup and doing this pattern with it and passing it on to the next person. But it gets you in synchrony, and it's fun. And it's not a big sport. It's easy to do after a few minutes of training. And it really brings the class together. And I've done it with 30 people in one big table, and it's just wonderful. A task, we're doing task-based work. And I think, yes, did you see that? Watch this quickly. Yes, that's synchrony. For me, when I first saw this, it was a mistake that I took a video. I thought I was taking a picture. And when I saw them all doing that at the same time, I thought, wow, that is so, they're all together. It's like they're giving birth to a baby. It's the group's baby, this This is a Da Vinci bridge that you have to build, and it's kind of complicated how you do it, but you have to have lots of hands to do it. So all that is going on in our classes, we cannot see all the biological waves of good feelings and connecting and belonging and helping and caring and loving. Maybe something like a fish tank or a cafe. This is another mistake photo that I made in my class, and I just realized when I took it that, wow, there's so many things going on that I don't see, okay? And maybe these are connections between people that are really, really important too. And maybe we've never really analyzed them all. So, possible pedagogical procedures for when I... Yes, question?
How are you?
Oh, thank you. Yes, we need a pause. How are you? Ask your partners. How are you? Thank you for reminding me.
How are you?
Sugoi kanpeki subarashi sekutiki genki. I have to do it in Japanese. Ask me, how are you? Thanks so much for reminding me. So that's a nice positivity break. Great. You make that, we need to train our students to do that, to interrupt the teacher or the lecturer and take those little tiny breaks. Okay? They're very, very important. Okay, I'm getting out of the theory now and getting more into the pedagogy. I often tell stories with my little speed dictations and or songs, and then we do the speed dictation, we sing it, and then we develop the call and the response. And then I get them for homework to teach what they're learning outside of class. And probably the booklet that's most interesting for that is this one. I had about 50 students in this class, and they all had to write, it was like a case study, a short case study, but very, very short case studies, just a half a page or a page. And they just loved being able to share and to teach. And I could feel that there were micro moments going on there with their teaching their mother and their father and other people these things. And do I have it in here? I don't think I have it in here. In my chapter in the positive psychology book, there's a pyramid, but it's the top. It has narcissistic self-focus, and then below that, it has task-based learning. And if you're focused on a task, usually you're more healthy, okay? If you're narcissistic, you're narrowing your abilities to do things, you're pathogenic, and all kinds of problems, okay? And if we can get people out of being wagamama in Japanese, wagamama means selfishness and self-centeredness, and get them more focused on tasks. Psychologists have said this now for many, many years, but my addition is, I think it's even better if we can get them to teach or help somebody outside of class. If that is the task, it gives them even more enjoyment and more joy in life. And so I've been trying to do that, and it seems to be working really well. I can see them having this rush of good feelings by teaching and teaching these things to their parents and their friends and everyone else. And it's very, very powerful. But today we're going to be mainly looking at singing and the call and response, okay? Because I'm going to try and give you 10 songs, basically, little songlets, okay? And we'll be going through with those.